right. Let me know when we can put it on screen. Oh, it's on. It's on. All right. Welcome to SecT. 10th year anniversary. Freaking awesome. For those who didn't read the bio, my name is Lundgren. I work for a company called IOactive, and I've been breaking stuff since the short age of 16. I do pen tests, fuzzing, everything web applications. As long as it has something to do with security, I'd love to be there. The reason I said in my intro that this might be a bit humiliating is we're going to talk about using the iSCSI protocol to harvest unprotected hard drives. The reason this is humiliating is it's iSCSI. It's a very old protocol. It's super simple to take advantage of. And it's humiliating for you to listen to my talk about iSCSI and how easy it is. And it's humiliating for me standing up here presenting something like this. I presented this as Black Hat, by the way, as well, one of the lounges. But before we start, I would like to give credit where credit is due. So, Himanshu Divendi, I probably butchered his name. He did something back in 2005 that I didn't see during my presentation. He did a talk on iSCSI and iSCSI security. And this is more than 10 years ago. 2005. The video quality for this Black Hat talk is very, like, 480p. Super high tech. So, you're supposed to start with a story. I'll start with a story. Meet Maddie. In Swedish, it's Madeleine. She lives in a small town in Uppsala. And yes, I censored because hashtag I'm a good guy. And Maddie is into a lot of stuff, especially handbags, and especially handbags that look like more expensive handbags. Question is, what has that to do with anything, and how do I know this? Because of iSCSI. Of course. So, we'll start off with, what is iSCSI? iSCSI, I always forget the long term for it. It's Internet Small Computer System Interface. What? IBM developed iSCSI as a proof of concept back in 1998. That's a long time ago. It was first sent as a draft to the Internet Engineering Task Force in the year 2000. And finally got approved and launched in 2003. So, how many is a question. How many of you have heard of iSCSI before? And here's where the new kids on the block come in and say, everybody. All right. How many of you use it today? Where you at? One, okay. 5 people. All right, cool. So, iSCSI allows to send SCSI commands over the internet in a very simple picture I stole from Google. Sorry for the copyright infringement. Actually, it's hard drives that you can actually use on the internet. That's the easy term for iSCSI. And things to know before we dwell into the super advanced iSCSI. iSCSI initiator, that is usually the client connecting. iSCSI target, that is the server and appliance that actually has the iSCSI server software running. IPsec, there's a rumor that iSCSI actually can use some form of encryption. IPsec might not be the ultimate protection. Sure, you can do man-in-the-middle attacks and brute force and even worse if it's on the network. We also have something called IQN. And IQN is iSCSI qualified name, which is basically, simple terms, you group a couple of drives and you call this array grandmother summer 2017. And there's where you will store all the grandmother pictures. That sounds disturbing. Dun, 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 dun. So usually this is installed, or the service is running on a storage array, for instance, a NAS or a cluster or a store in general. It's very low cost and very flexible. In Linux, it's open source, I guess, and Windows has their own derivative of it as well. It works on TCP port 3260. It's an okay solution for virtualization. I say okay because there's probably alternatives that are way better. So I want you to think about, the high security you can think about. And when someone mentions security of me and high security, I think those old James Bond movies with Fort Knox, with the military and the fences and the tanks running around. And it's an impenetrable silo guarded by an entire army. It's super secure. If you have that picture in mind and you think of iSCSI, it's not even close. I mean, it supports CHAP, username and password, by default. If you want something else, for instance, IPsec, you probably have to dwell deeper, especially in Linux and Windows, I guess. Unencrypted data being transmitted over the local network. It runs IPsec. And as I said before, man-in-the-middle attacks, brute force, and even worse. So, I use iSCSI at home, and that's how it started a little bit. I was doing my MQTT research, and I had iSCSI, and I set up and configured it for a virtualization environment. And I thought, is this on the internet, by the way? Because, I didn't use any username and password internally. Thought that was, come on. So, where do we go when we check stuff? We go to Shodan, of course. Shodan, July 2017. We got 43,383 iSCSI ports open. But more important, what's worse, September, 48,116. And we can all admit that, I'm not a genius, but that's a 10.81% increase in about 2.5 months for the iSCSI protocol. Now, there is one thing, you have username and password for the iSCSI protocol, but you also have the option not to use it. Shodan, July 2017. I'm sorry for the white box because that contained an IP for some reason. 11,009 unauthenticated iSCSI instances on the internet. September 2017, 12,336. Those shouldn't be increasing, guys. That's a 12.05% increase of all the unauthenticated iSCSI. Of course, I started scanning, because that's what I do. If I find something, I scan it. To break it to you, I'm still scanning. I've been scanning since April. Takes a while to actually log into all the iSCSIs and do an LS and all that. So I'm about 50 to 80% done. There's 212,000 identified iSCSI devices. We'll see what the data will be once that's done. I will post that somewhere online. My guess is there will be like 50,000 to 70,000 unauthenticated. That's just me doing an educated guess. So how do you do this? How do you harvest the drives or use them to put up your whatever pictures you would like to be online, holiday pictures or your own personal iCloud? As I said, this is humiliating. All you need is an IP address. That's some hardcore hacking right there for you. It's way harder than Ulf Frisk's demo attacks, that's for sure. You can actually do this in Windows as well. So Windows has a tool called iSCSI CPL, which you can fire up. Probably 99% of you that used iSCSI know about this tool. But once you have an IP address that contains the no auth, you can find that on Shodan or you can port scan yourself. You can actually just point that IP in there and press OK. It's very easy to use, but it's not especially stable. What do I mean by that? Well, if the server is pretty slow, the application will hang or will crash, or it was just my generic Windows. God knows. On Linux, on the other hand, you have a little bit more options. Just, yeah, that's a little bit more. So it took a while for me to actually get this kicking in Linux. But after more and Googling how-tos, that's how we do today, right? We just Google it. We can do stuff like this, and that is iSCSI with the mode discover DB, send targets portal, what IP address you want to connect to, and discover. What that one will do is actually query the iSCSI service for the qualified names and put those into the iSCSI admin database. This is nice if you have around 200, 300 IP addresses. You just put those into iSCSI admin. What you then can do with all those is just write iSCSI admin m mode login or node login. That one will actually try and log in on all the IP addresses you have in your iSCSI database. This can either go good or very bad. I think if the threshold limit for my Linux was 365 IP addresses, then it started to get sluggish, and then it started to, not work. And that means that you get those devices. If you're new to Linux, you will get like /dev/SDK1, which is here, which is one of the drives. And this is, you can use a DMSG just to check what kind of devices are actually mounted. Some will time out, some will not work, but rest assured that the iSCSI command will still run in the background and hang the console a little bit. Now, you can also do stuff like mounting the disk, or you can use, for instance, test disk, which is /dev/SDK1. You can see that's in QNAP iSCSI storage. QNAP is a known brand for home NAS systems, or some use it professionally as well. Now, browsing around here and then seeing files, seeing the things that are on. In Windows, that requires permission. The same thing in Linux. It might say access denied. Your user does not have permission. You need to be a specific user to read this directory. So this is controlled by software, for instance, Windows and the rights management. You can get stuff like this. I don't have permission to enter this folder. And I'm going to give you 45 minutes to ponder on how you would go about to bypass that. Yeah, yeah, sure.
You can mount NTFS in Linux and EXT in Windows.
True, but can you bypass the, for instance, if you're only on Windows, can you bypass the writes on a Windows machine? Or same thing if you mount like a Linux. If you mount a Windows one and a Linux one, you might be able to bypass it, but if you want a Windows and a Windows, you will get the error. Yes, sir.
You can disable the UAC.
There's something more easier. There's something very, very, very easy. I said, this is humiliating. So we have what in the, I'm not going to say it. We have partition access. We own the device name, dev SDK, which means we have hard drive file system access. We don't need no stinking rules. So how about accessing this to test disk and just doing test disk /dev/ whatever device it is? That will actually give us access to it no matter the permissions, because now we're going into the hard drive and all the files that are actually on there and completely bypassing any form of software security that they have. When I found this out, I laughed loud. I was trying hard to get by this and like, oh, it's so obvious. Of course. Yeah, like I said, you don't need no stinky permission test disk. And on top of that, we have write access. We have write access to the hard drive, to the physical file system of the hard drive. What can we do? So on some things I've found, you can do, some people host their entire corporate homepages on the iSCSI. What you can do if you're a very bad man is that you can inject stuff into the HTML or the home pages of the hosting. Why not inject malware into exe files and else? So next time they run that driver or run that exe file, the application, it actually executes my code, and then we will get access to the computer that way. How about iSCSI ransomware? Automatically scans the entire internet for iSCSI, mounts the drive, and then tries to encrypt and erase the files? No, no, I'm not giving you any ideas. Not at all. Don't do it. Don't do it, Captain. If it's a bootable drive, maybe you can infect the MBR master boot records, so next time they reboot. Auf Wiedersehen, that's German, by the way. For goodbye. Some even have their complete AD mounted over iSCSI, which means that you can start dumping passwords, of course, depending on the Windows version. I told you this is humiliating. How do we protect against this? Really, how do we protect against this? If you really need to know, just, whitelist IP addresses. Of course, you can also enable username and password. I mean, there's that option, of course. Of course, it's not 100%, because the big question, and this took like 3 seconds to figure out. Why? Why do you want to expose this like this? Or at all? Or use it at all? Now, as there's downsides on top of the downsides, which is, I wouldn't say it has encryption. It's very slow. And I don't think this has been audited for a good while. My idea was to, when I have time, which is never, thank you, 3 kids, is to make some kind of fusser. that actually tries to emulate an iSCSI server and have the iSCSI client actually connect to it and see what you can get. Now, I post this idea on Black Hat while people were listening, and I got approached afterwards by a company that makes storage devices that actually have this ability of iSCSI. And he told me that, we do a lot of testing, especially with the Linux version of iSCSI, and oh God, it breaks. I say, how do you mean it breaks? Yeah, our developers, they throw it into a debugger, and they can see that it breaks a lot. And some of those things might be exploitable, so you're onto something. So if any of you guys have time out there, just remember who you got that idea from, So for those who are completely clueless, how do you detect this in your own network? Well, you can start by doing a port scanner in a network looking for 3260. That's the TCP port of the iSCSI. Nmap has a script, the iSCSI info. It also has a brute forcer. So if you want to start guessing password, it has the iSCSI brute. And I hope this syntax is correct. That's the Nmap on port 3260 using the iSCSI info and, of course, your IP range. What you're looking for is the ones that contain the word no auth, because that is no authentication, obviously. Now, I could show you a lot of stuff, but I would guess that 90% of the stuff that I would show you would either get me into silver bracelets or banned from some countries. And I would very much like to go on vacation on some of these countries, so internal schematics, and that means from turbines to some military-grade equipment. Passports, scanned, of course. Someone decided to scan their entire employee, for screening purposes, obviously, and they put it there, and it's browsable through iSCSI. Financial documents, stuff that is being planned for the future. Of course, the usual porn and wares. I would say a lot of porn and wares. Do we still use the word wares? Anybody know? Of course, usernames and passwords, and of course, databases as well. Source code for gaming and gambling and banking. If I post anything of that here, I probably get wrecked. But I'm not going to leave you hanging, though. Wrecked, that's a new term. I picked it up for my son. Thought it was awesome, so all right, let's do it. This is the iSCSI, and while doing iSCSI, I spoke to a couple of friends of mine, and one of them, semi-casual, mentioned, how about HDFS? And I was clueless, of course. What about HDFS? I don't know. What are you talking about? So I have to Google again, because this is nothing I've used. 48,631. It's called, from Google says it's called host guest file system, and it's VMware stuff. Again, a lot of them have no authentication. It's 2017. I'm standing here talking about no authentication. It's like it's 1995 called, It even has a web interface in some instances, which allows you to interact with the hard drives that are connected and mounted file systems. Now, there is a ransomware called Hadoop. Well, browsing around all these things, I thought to myself, what is this readme txt file I keep saying? And this is the first time I tried to Google it, but I couldn't find any info back then. This was in July. I couldn't find any info about the HDFS and cryptolockers. But looking at the txt file, we get this. So your data is being backed up at our servers. Thank you, thank you. To restore it, send $100 Bitcoins to Bitcoin address, lava, 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 and email to Hadoop. And nice to give me tips where you can buy Bitcoins with PayPal directly. That's very nice of them. Looking at the wallet, I can see he earned a lot of money so far. So all his earnings go to that. I'm not going to leave. I left you hanging a little bit with the story in the beginning. You're sitting here, and I can hear you saying, "What about the story in the beginning?" So what about Maddie? And that's her kids, by the way. And that they don't look like that. For those, that's actually an image I put on top to censor her kids because #LoveKids. We have her CV. We have her kids' photos. We have everything about her life. I know that her ringtone is Frosty the Snowman. I know that she has a lot of friends on Facebook, and some she actually emails with a lot, talking about bags. I know where she lives. I know her social security number and the last numbers as well. I know where all the addresses where she lived, all the jobs that she applied. But most important, her husband might be here today, so I might get... Will you guys protect me if I get knocked the fuck out? Thanks. Maddie's husband is an IT expert. He's a developer for one of Sweden's largest parking applications that you can use on a mobile phone. Yeah. He has all the sources and he does all the coding, probably from home, and then he pushes it onto his iSCSI drive when he's done. That means that theoretically we could see if we can inject something into the parking application. So, guess what I did? I did not do it. Kind of led you on there, How do you guys think we should fix this? There's an increase in iSCSI. How can we fix this? Does it need to be another ransomware attack targeting iSCSI and other hard drive protocols out there? Why is it increasing in 2017, people? All right, I know I'm a little bit early, but as we say in Swedish, morgonstund har gullig mun. So thank you very much, guys. And again, I'm so sorry for the humiliating iSCSI information. Jesus Christ, it's...
Yeah, it's one of those times where you don't really come up with any questions. It's kind of like obvious.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The whole thing
exactly.
is like, you find stuff like this, did you contact anyone concerned?
Contacted Maddie's husband, yeah.
Yeah.
That was not a fun call to make. I had to call her cell because I didn't have her husband's cell. So I had to call her and tell her, can I please speak to insert husband's name here?
And what was the response, though?
Who are you?
What was the response?
Yeah, she was like, who are you? I said, hi, I'm doing research on the internet. I think she hung up twice. I mean, it's kind of disturbing because if I would call you up and say, hey, Madeleine, my name is Lucas. Can I speak to, let's say his name was Robert. Can I speak to Robert for a moment? And they will go, why are you calling me and who are you? Hi, my name is Lucas. I'm a security researcher. Your husband is exposing iSCSI. What? You're exposing information on the internet. Are you from Microsoft? No. Then I would have an Indian accent. Jesus.
Guess you have to call with a proper accent.
Welcome to. I see you have iSCSI information. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna get knocked the fuck out. Trust me. You were saying, mother? No, but a couple of calls, and then she put her husband on and said, like, dude, you have iSCSI exposed. Oh, I thought that was only reachable from home and work. No, you probably have QNAP, and you probably have UPnP enabled, which actually tells your router to, hey, open up that port. And your router goes, sure. Why not? Sounds like a good idea. So yeah, but he closed it down and thanked me so much. Probably Googling who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm located, and how to kick my ass. So.
And I was going to find the video of you talking about
Yeah,
it.
you're
and
going to
all
find a
that.
video, you're going to see. I censored you, Maddie. I censored you. And I censored your kids as well. So please forgive me.
You found more stuff that you contacted people about?
Come in?
Did you contact more people about stuff
No,
you found?
hell no.
No?
No, not the serious one, because God knows what they will lead. I don't know where to put this info, really. The things
So there's
that
no Lucas wall of shame.
yeah, more my wall of shame, privately. This is shameful. This is the 50 Shades of Grey of internet security. It's a little bit shameful that you actually read it and saw it, but you know, now you know.
All right. Questions from the audience. Do we have a microphone running around? Can we have the microphone here,
It's
please?
crystal clear now. It's
Do you use or have you considered using Masscan in order to generate
Yes.
a nice timeline of like,
Yes,
the
yes,
hockey
yes.
stick of how much
now,
is going up?
yeah, the thing here, the downside isn't mass scan, because mass scanning we can scan the port and see that the port is open, fine. But where I really want to have is, does this contain any authentication at all? And there is where it takes time to actually initiate an authentication request and see, can I anonymously log in? And if I can, is the file systems ready? Can I use the file system? In that case, can I do an LS? If not, do I actually have write access? I mean, I've seen arrays with like 8 to 12, 16 terabyte disks that are unformatted. That I can just go into, for instance, take the test disk or make FS and just make a new partition. So if you have problems storing your information, you just want to put it out there, I mean, around 46,000 to choose from, so go. But Masscan, yeah, if I can get that to work with actually initiate commands in a row, fast-ish. Yes, both banner grabbing, you can do that, but what I'm looking for is the same thing I did with the MQTT, which is injecting commands. It hasn't been working so far, so. Hopefully my scan is done soon and I can put this on the internet and get you some graphs and cool stuff.
See the hand over there?
Run, you fools.
It's kind of efficient.
Hi.
You're not Maddie's husband, are you?
No, you can relax. Did you do any fingerprinting to see if it was one certain vendor or model of device that's, since it's increasing?
Yes, it's not on Showdown because it's so accurate, but I have a couple of numbers. They're not finished yet, so that's why I don't have them. But I can see that number 1 is QNAP, number 2 is Synology, which means usually private people. They're not that private anymore, obviously, but it's a personal use.
Can I have a follow-up question?
Yes.
Have you contacted them and see, did they respond or?
No, they
Synology?
will probably just ignore it and say that, yeah, well, you enabled it and it's UPnP, so your router will probably open up. But tip of the day, disable UPnP. Just a small tip.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Do you have more questions? Okay, I see a hand down there as well.
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
It's also okay with beard questions, that's fine.
Okay. When you showed the showdown, there was a lot of China and Korea, North Korea, I believe. Why North Korea? They can't have that many computers.
There was, I think it was South Korea. Should we go back and take a look? That was a good question.
It's that
How many
Republic of Korea.
La 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 la. Republic of Korea, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's north or south or just.
Well,
The
the
south,
south,
yeah.
the
But
north
that's,
seemed to be completely white on the picture, though.
Okay, sorry.
That's HEFS though. Let's see. let's go back. Let's go back. Get back there. Unauthenticated. It's United States, of course. There's so many things I could say here, but I won't. United States, China, and Korea, Republic of and Taiwan and France.
No more questions? So thank you very much, Lucas.
Thank you, guys.